Hello, everybody. My name is Maurice Button. I'm the CEO of City and Financial Global. It's my great pleasure to be interviewing Sir Douglas Flint, Chairman of Aberdeen, today. Sir Douglas will be joining us at City Week on a panel looking at climate adaptation and the steps that financial institutions should be taking now. City Week 2023 takes place at the Guildhall, London, between the 24th and the 26th of April. Sir Douglas, welcome.
Thank you. Great pleasure to be here.
Very good to have you with us. Turning to the first question, obviously financial institutions are busy working on their net zero plans and their TCFD reporting, etc. Do you think they are as equally focused on the so-called physical risks, i.e. adapting to the rapidly deteriorating weather conditions that we're already experiencing and which will probably worsen as we approach 2050 and beyond?
Yes, I do. I mean, I think it's part of the resilience planning that all businesses do. I mean, whether it's supply chain disruption, natural events, economic disruption from all kind of activity, and obviously we've got the tragedy of the conflict in Ukraine. All of these conditions require you to be looking at your resilience, of which climate is probably the most important long-term issue. So yes, people are thinking about the physical deterioration that they can see, as well as the taxonomy of the measurements that they have to demonstrate that they are making progress in what they do themselves and what the companies they invest in do.
Yes, I mean, on that subject of the companies in which you invest, how difficult is it to screen them given the plethora of different reporting standards and taxonomies that they can use to report on their climate situation? Does that make it very difficult for you as a fund manager? And what, if anything, could be done to improve the situation?
I think it makes it difficult for those who want an easy way of making comparisons across fund managers, across companies, across sectors, to get a consistent way of looking at the metrics that people publish. I mean, in my own view, very much is that it's much more important to look at the impact and the changes that are being brought about by actions taken by companies and indeed by people like ourselves, rather than obsessing about getting the perfect taxonomy. What I think is more important is looking at how people, against the taxonomy that they themselves have chosen, that is meaningful and evidentially based, that they're making progress on a time series, that they have identified what the stepping points are to that, rather than obsess about getting everyone to do the same thing. What's really important is we make an impact,
Yes.
and the company has an impact. So I think, and we do that as much by discussion with companies and holding them accountable to what they said they would do, as opposed to simply just getting the metrics and looking at them on a comparative basis through time and against peers.
Mm. And what about when you look at your own business model and consider the direct impact of climate change on your business model? Is that a difficult thing to analyze in depth? And what are the main challenges in doing that and the difficulties that you face?
I think it's really important for the business model. I mean, in terms of our own impact as a fund manager, I mean, it's a relatively modest one. I mean, we measure our footprint in terms of travel and indeed energy consumed on people working from home now as well. But the bigger measurement, the bigger impact on our model is if the economic consequences that are foreseen take place, then the cost to society of putting in place their own personal transition plans and the economic damage that could be involved in many economies means that individuals that should be saving more for their retirement and for their health care are not going to be able to have that money, and therefore the impact is that there may be less money available to save in the future because people are having to spend more of their income on transition and less income because of the higher cost that will be occasioned by climate change.
Regulation has proven to be a very powerful tool in greening the financial system and thereby the so-called real economy. How successful do you think this has been, and are there any potential improvements to the regulatory approach?
I think regulation has an important role to play, but I don't think we should overestimate what it can do. I mean, investors should be doing the right thing anyway, because economically it's the right thing to do to evaluate the sustainability, the resilience of the businesses that they're investing in. And I think it would be problematic if regulation decided to impose a one-size-fits-all approach to the way people measure things or the way they act, because in a way, I'm not saying competition, but differential approaches will almost certainly provide a range of outcomes that will allow society to work out which is actually having more real life impact over the medium and long term. So I think regulation should certainly create a framework that mandates companies and investors to have a transition plan and to be able to demonstrate the efficacy of it. But I think squeezing everyone into the same box takes away some of the innovation and thinking that might arise from people looking at it differentially across the world and over time.
No, indeed. I certainly agree with that. I mean, a final question, because we're coming up to our time limit. Where does climate adaptation rank as a boardroom issue in the financial institutions in the UK and across the world, I suppose?
I think it's an ever-present issue. I mean, obviously, in any time period, there are things that are urgent that need to be dealt with, and there are things that are important that are a theme over many, many years. I mean, climate adaptation is a 20, 30-year challenge to get to 2050 in the way that they want to. I think it's ever present in a number of ways for our industry. One, we should never overestimate what we individually can do, but we should never underestimate what we as a collective within the industry can do. And I think that there's a leadership role in terms of guiding policy. I think there's a leadership role in terms of educating our customers, and indeed the institutions on whose behalf we invest, because we have a broader spectrum than they may have. And I think it's something that we need to make sure that we articulate well, because the penalties for either underplaying this challenge or overplaying it in terms of the contribution that you say you're making is a legal minefield. So I think it's very much top of mind in boardrooms at the moment in terms of we must do enough. We must be seen to do what we are doing, and we mustn't overestimate it, because that gets into greenwashing challenges, and we mustn't underestimate the impact we can have, because we can be part of the solution. But remember, we're part of it. We're not individually changing the world.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a collective approach, isn't it, that will see us through. Douglas, thank you very much for your time today and for sharing those insights with us. We look forward to hearing more on this topic. As I say, there is a panel on climate adaptation at City Week being held at the Guildhall between the 24th and 26th of April. Very much hope that our viewers will be able to join us in person at the event. So, Douglas, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Look forward to seeing you in City Week.